maybe you can share, if you were here last time, what was the one thing that you picked up from her presentation in terms of life work balance or life work integration? Okay, I see Mercy saying she's an integration person. So integrator means you're able to do both at the same time. You're working partly and you're also integrating with your life, but balancing is where you divide. Work is at this time and life happens at this other time. Okay, you can see Caroline saying, it was great to have the realization that I cannot integrate or else I will fall into work. I need to start off and balance in blocks. Okay, you can see a lot of learning there. Thank you, Carol, for sharing. So you could either be one that is able to move and have both work at the same time and be able to balance. Maybe, those people who go to the Maldives with their laptops and they're sitting on the beach and you're typing away. That is an integrator. And then there's blocking off. You're like, I work 3 months and then I holiday whatever months. Gloria, I see you're saying, I have learned to balance intentionally. Okay, thanks for sharing that, Gloria. Eda says, for me, what got me is that we have to intentionally create a distinct balance or break from work. Yes, indeed we do. I think we were created to be able to both work and fulfill our purpose, as well as also engage with other people, have an impact in the world with our families. And so we must find the balance. Okay, Mercy Mwagona says, I remember the debate with balancers, Caroline and Wavi. I was relieved to know that we are all different and actually you can hybrid. Yes, well, that's a good lesson. I missed the debate between Carol and Wavi. Who was a balancer and who was the integrator? Curious to know that. You can see, of course, Carol was a balancer. Okay, any other sharing? Juguna says Maldives is a bit extreme, but he is an integrator. And of course, life happens and he refuses to be put in a box. Okay. We're trying to box you, Jaguna. You can be both. Maybe you have your balancing moments and your integrating moments. Personally, I think I'm an integrator. I want to work 20 minutes, then balance for another 5 and keep going. As we were talking last time, there's work and then there's life. And we need to find a balance or to be able to integrate both. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about Pauline's life side. And Pauline is a nature and garden enthusiast. She loves green spaces. And so you'll find her either working from a green space or traveling to the Bundus to just see, those green terrains. She loves traveling. She also loves some jazz music. I think she was enjoying the session that was just before now. We're having some jazz music. And she also enjoys baking and she's a shoes collector. She's a mother of 2 daughters, one's a teenager and a preteen. Pauline, welcome to tell us what you have for us today. I know that we'll look at what strategies that we can take up and also take a little quiz to see where we are at in terms of work-life balance. Welcome, Pauline Karaoke. We are really excited to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Lynette. Thank you for the kind introduction and good afternoon to every one of us who is joining us this afternoon. It's a great pleasure to come back again and have this great conversation, which is important for every one of us from a personal life and also from a professional life. I believe that all these facets of our lives, all these pillars of our lives have to integrate at some point so that we are able to live as one holistic person and living in a functional way. And for us to be able to live out holistically and in a functional way, we need to be authentic with ourselves. We need to look at all the areas of our lives and see which one perhaps is working, which one is not working. And so that's why we are continuing with this conversation about the work-life balance or integration. Just looking back from where we were last time, it came out from the audience that we had that all of us interpret these factors from different perspectives, depending on who we are as individuals and also the context, the nature or the dynamics of our jobs, the dynamics of our families, the dynamics of our social spaces, everywhere we are. And that's why we handle these things from a very different perspective. So we'll continue on, and today we will be looking to just do a bit of a recap on what we captured the last time. And with that, we'll be looking at some questions. I'll want to engage with all of us just to find out where we are at. Are we doing well? Are we in the middle? Or are we down there? And so I'll dive directly into the presentation. You're free to chat your questions or to just ask any comment or any question as we progress on. We are here to learn from one another. No one of us has, the monopoly of knowledge in these things, but it's a kind of an experiential learning for each and every one of us. Let's share what is working for us so that we can help one another to be better professionals. So this is where we left at halftime. And so we are picking from the halftime to the end. Let's complete the race now. And the learning objectives this afternoon will be 3, just to recap again, like I had said before, and also to look at some of the strategies and techniques that we can be able to apply so that we have a positive impact in our lives. And so as I was thinking, I came across this image, and it took me back to ask, when teams are playing, some of us are fans of different athletics and sports. And at some point, teams come together during the halftime just to deliberate and debrief and see really what's working, what's not working, how did we score, how did we perform, who has an injury, who do we replace, all those dynamics. And it is the same for us, we have to take a step back as professionals and come zone in and ask ourselves, where are we at? How am I doing as Pauline? How am I doing as Lynette? How am I doing as Angela? And every one of us in this room. It is very important to have that halftime break. What I would have wanted us to do is to do an evaluation, a self-exploration on how we are. I will project a few questions. These are the questions that we shall be answering about ourselves. And what I'm trying to achieve from this is for all of us to be able to ask ourselves, how am I faring? How am I doing with myself? So Lynette, are we able to read the questions?
Yes, would you like me to read them out?
Yes, please.
All right, so the first question is, I spend 50 hours or more a week at work. I spend 50 hours or more a week at work. Yeah, so you rate 1 for never, 2 for seldom, 3 for sometimes, 4 for often, and then always it's 5. Right, so the first question is, I spend 50 or more hours at work. And the second question is, I neglect or have difficulty getting an adequate quantity and quality of sleep, exercise, or hydration or nutrition. So you could say never, seldom, sometimes, often, or always. And the third one is, I feel depressed, exhausted, or overwhelmed when I think of all I have to do at home and or at work. Fourth question is, I feel I have little or no control over demands placed on me at home and or at work. Fifth question, I feel guilty that I'm not meeting my responsibilities at home or at work. And the last one is I neglect taking time for myself, recreation, relaxation, quiet time in favor of fulfilling work and family responsibilities. So just rate yourself out of 5, what you feel for each question, and then put together a tally.
All right, thank you. I want to believe that we have been able to interact with these questions and that we have related them to our own selves and our own personal lives and how we are faring. This is just an overview of the things that came on top of my mind as I was trying to also rate myself. And so with that, we'll want now to ask ourselves, what are the results that we have? Are we between the first bracket of 24 to 30, which means that there's a meltdown waiting to happen? Are we in the mid-range of 15 to 23, which tells us that we are almost getting caught in the thrill of the chase of the things that we do? Or are we at the 14 or below, which means that we are doing great with ourselves? And the question to ask now is, will we be able to maintain at this rate? Or will you perhaps fall into other 2 brackets? So let's share, let's engage, let's see where we are at. Lynette, if you can check in the chat, if there's anyone who has been able to give us their feedback. We'll also want to hear your feedback, Lynette. Angela, let's get to hear all of us how we are doing.
I see Victor saying he's at 22. A lot of people saying getting caught in the chase. I'm at 15, getting caught in the chase of the thrill. Purity says 16. Personally, I'm at 20. I'm like, wait, I need to reevaluate my life. Carol says, a meltdown waiting to happen, and shock emoji. And Susan saying she's at 16. All right.
All right. Thank you very much for those of us who have been able to give us their feedback on where we are at. As you can see, some of us are in the borderline, others are already in the meltdown, and some are almost getting there. So it is important for all of us to be able to keep asking ourselves this question over and over, so that if we are already in the meltdown, what do we need to do in order to pull ourselves out of that meltdown? If you're in the in-between, what do you need to do so that we don't fall on the other side of the scale? And if you're below, then keep doing what you're doing, keep at it, so that we are not, you don't go down the scale. We're able to maintain at that rate, which is a very good rate, and it is very good for our mental wellness and also for productivity as an individual and as a professional. So what is it that you're making out of this? How are you placing yourself out of this? And I was looking at it, I went through some statistics just to be able to find out how does it look like out there? What does the statistics tells us? And so one of the things I came across is that according to the World Health Organization, they have recognized burnout, which is an occupational burnout, which is caused by, a lack of this balancing or integration from a professional perspective. And according to a study that was done by an American Institute of Stress, it indicated that about 1 in every 5 of employees are stressed out because of their jobs, and they're likely to quit out of it. And again, that continues on. Many research indicate a lot of these accelerated stress levels at the workplace. And it is an accumulation of the workload itself, the stresses at the workplace, plus also our own personal stressors that come in. And so if you're not able to separate these two or even balance them out or even integrate them very well, then we are likely to experience the occupational burnout. And so I asked myself, what is locally, what does it mean from a Kenyan perspective? And I came across this article, which was in the Standard newspaper on Sunday, this past Sunday. And there was an article about the mental health crisis in Kenya. And what reports are showing, or what research is showing, is that 82% of employees have mental health conditions. But what happens? They are not able to communicate these with their employers. Why is that? It's because some of us are, they will bring in issues of discrimination, stigmatization. When somebody comes to share that they're experiencing this mental health challenge, then if whoever they're sharing with, whether it is their manager or it is their team leader, if they lack that awareness of trying to listen to this person and hear what they are saying, sometimes the person sharing may feel that they are not understood, that they are not accepted. And what will that mean? Like the story that Lynette shared at the beginning, we are likely to experience cases of suicide. Why? You find a very happy person, somebody who is very engaging, somebody who is all over and has all this energy, but they still end up committing the suicide. Why? It's because of that lack of a safe space for people to be able to express their mental status. And there's nothing wrong with, feeling exhausted. There's nothing wrong with feeling anxious. There's nothing wrong. It is a normal phenomenon. It is how we deal with the feeling. But the feeling is normal for all of us. So again, from this article, what I picked is that according to reports, is 1 in every 5 Kenyans are suffering from a certain form of mental disorder, be it depression, be it anxiety, and that is being accelerated to issues of drugs and substance abuse. And because of this stigmatization and also discrimination across all sectors in our societies, then people find that they lack a space where they can be able to express ourselves. And it is very good that as a profession, we are having these forums, we are having these spaces where we can come and discuss about our mental wellness, because at the end of the day, it has a great impact in how we are in terms of performance and productivity at our workplaces. And so what is the recommendation? There's a task force that was put in place by the government, I think last year or the other year, just to look at these issues of mental health and mental wellness. And the report that they came up with from a professional perspective is that employers need to invest more on the mental well-being of employees. And so the call to all of us in this call is that let's have these conversations in a deliberate way from where we are. Let's talk to our colleagues. Let us ask each other, how are you? How are you, Lynette, this morning? What's going on? Is there anything that I can do for you? Sometimes you may not have the solution, but perhaps that person just wants you to listen to them. Maybe they have a work challenge that they do not have the courage to speak out and say, I am stuck here. Just keep asking, is there anything I can do for you? Do you need any support? As leaders, as team leaders and managers, have those deliberate conversations with our team members, just asking, how is work going on? Is everything okay? In a very informal way, so that it breaks that ice, it breaks that rigidity, and breaks that down and makes the environment very safe and very warm for each and everyone to be able to speak about it. Let's be deliberate, let's be intentional. Again, back to ourselves as professionals in the customer service space, I looked out what could be some of the main challenges that we go through. And sometimes we experience, issues of working in organizational silos. I know that's a big one. I experienced that when I was in my workplace, where teams are just working in silos and no one wants to engage. And if they engage with others, it's from a very transactional perspective. Let's try and undo that. Things we are saying we are evolving. Things have evolved, just like the way we keep saying our clients have evolved. Let's also evolve as professionals and be more intentional in getting to be empathetic with one another, to create those relationships that will help each and every one of us to be better, to relate better, and to, be compassionate with one another. And so what do we need to do? Now that we know what it means to have a work-life balance, we know the impact of it, we know that we are likely to encounter burnout and stress and other mental health disorders, and we know that we can either apply the balancing or the integration, and we have assessed ourselves to try and weigh where we are at. Then what do we need to do? According to my understanding, the best strategy is to empower ourselves in our level of self-awareness and self-advocacy. And why do I say this? When you are aware about yourself, when you know what you're feeling, when you understand yourself from every perspective of your emotion, then your level of emotional intelligence goes high. And self-awareness is one of the components of emotional intelligence. Then you're able to know how to manage and how to regulate your emotions, so that even when these stressors come into your life, then you'll be able to understand, how do I deal with it? Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Why is work? Why is family? Why is my social space? Why is my spiritual? Why is my financial? How is my environmental? Why are they making me feel this way? What is the feeling behind the feeling? That with a heightened level of self-awareness, you'll be able to regulate yourself and become more responsive other than being more reactive. Now, with self-advocacy, you're able to speak out. If it is at the workplace, you can comfortably go to our managers and tell them, look, this is what I'm going through with my work. This is what the clients are saying. I have an idea that I can bring on the table to be able to make things easier for every one of us. So speaking out, and the best perhaps it can happen in our workplaces is when we offer that psychological safety for all of us. What do I mean by psychological safety? It is that space where we can, we can give our views, we can give our ideas, whether they are positive or they are negative, without fearing that perhaps I'll be reprimanded because of speaking my mind. So the call to all of us, if you're in management level, let's offer our staff members this space, this psychological safe space, so that we are able to speak to one another, we break down those silos, and we are able to engage productively with one another. So when we think about it, even as I'm talking about this, I am very cognizant that it is not always all beautiful. The level of vulnerability that we speak of what we are feeling, saying, I feel frustrated by my work, and you're speaking that to your manager or by your boss, it calls for a lot of, self-confidence. And so let's speak up, let's advocate for ourselves. If we don't speak for ourselves, if we don't speak up for ourselves, no one else will be able to speak for you. So call to every one of us, let's speak, let's say what's going on in our lives, and let's offer each other a safe space whereby even as I speak, even as I tell Lynette, this is what I'm feeling, it will be a space where I'll not feel judged. It will be a space where I'll be feeling this person is actually listening to me, to listen with me, not to me, sorry, to listening with me, and has an ear to be able to hear what I am saying. And so how do we then empower ourselves into this act of listening? First is to take a step back and stop and ask yourself, stop reacting impulsively with the things that are happening around us. And how can we empower ourselves from stopping to react, again, is heightening our level of self-awareness and heightening the level of our emotional intelligence. Let's ask ourselves, what's this? What's going on in me? Stop and listen. What is the feeling that you're feeling right now? Right now, as we are seated in this call, what's going on in your mind? Are you happy? Are you feeling like you're very edgy because after this you have got to do some work? Are you letting yourself be and say, this is the hour for my self-care. This is the hour that I'm taking aside to be able to interrogate and speak to myself and ask how I am doing. And then once we stop and sit in with our emotions, different emotions come in. I just brought this in just for us to be able to interact with the many words or many adjectives that are used to express emotions. Sometimes we keep saying, I'm happy, the other thing, there are the words that we can be able to use, you're feeling peaceful, you're feeling optimistic, you're feeling, if you're sad, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling tired. Use the adjective that describes what you are feeling without fearing that somebody may, look at it from, you'll be judged out of it. Then look at yourself and ask, what is currently happening around you? What are the triggers around that emotions? If it is work, is it because that there's more workload? Is it because the systems are not working? Is it because there's a lot that had been put on your JD? Or what is it? What is causing that emotion at that present moment? If it is from a family level, what's going on either with your spouse, with your children, with your brothers, with your sisters? If it is in the social space, what's triggering that either happy or negative emotion? Is it the way your friends are, are playing out life? Whichever it is, look back and observe your current. Be mindful. When we say mindful living, is being present and living in the present moment with yourself. And that is the only way you can be able to recognize what emotion is going on through you. Then listen to yourself. So you've stopped, you've looked, and now you are listening to yourself. What is that emotion telling me? When you're listening to others, in whatever forum that you are in, listen to hear what you're saying. When you're listening to yourself, listen to the inner you. And when you're listening, whether to others or to yourself, give yourself some grace. Listen to yourself with some empathy and with some compassion. Again, let's remember that this process of this journey of work-life integration or balance is not a marathon. It's a marathon, sorry, and not a sprint. Why do I say that? All these have different tactics as to how you approach them in the marathon or in a sprint. All of them have different tactics. However, a marathon, you have to, it is more progressive than a sprint. A sprint is just a one thing off. And adopting into strategies of empowering your work-life balance cannot be a sprint. And that's why we're saying you need to be purposeful, you need to be intentional, and realize that it is an incremental journey. It's a process that keeps growing each day. It's a process of self-discovery. This is how I was yesterday. This is how I am today. This is how I handle the challenges and the stresses of life today. Are they functional? If they are not, how do I alter that? What is the alternative? What is the best coping mechanism that I can be able? So it's a learning journey. So every day you are learning something new about yourself. And again, I will go back to what I'm saying is about the journey of intentionality, being deliberate with all that you do and purposeful. When you look at this image, it was very interesting for me, thinking that this horse will be able to carry the load. So I asked myself, do I look at myself like that sometimes? So I need to be real with myself. I need to be authentic. We need to be authentic with ourselves on what's happening in our different spaces so that we remain whole. And once we remain whole, it opens up the space for us to be able to be more creative and to be more innovative and coming up with strategies that will empower us to be better and better persons. This is one of the strategies that I use every now and then, landing my plane one at a time. And what do I mean by that? You know, when you think of even like the largest airport we have in the world, think about Heathrow. Imagine how many planes either are arriving or they're departing. So many of them at the same time, but there's no plane that will land at the same time. There's no plane that will depart at the same time. It is one at a time. So it is for our lives. We have so much on our table, very many things to deal with. This life is like a rat race. There's competition left, right, and center. All these are the many planes in our lives. Let's learn to land one at a time. One at a time. If this one is faulty, put it aside, let it be worked on so that it lands. But let's learn to land one plane at a time. That is one of the philosophies that I have adopted for myself. One thing at a go. And so that brings me to, I connected that with the 80-20 Pareto rule, whereby you're able to identify what is that 20% of the things that are causing you 80% of the issues. And this will help you be able to land your plane one at a time. Sometimes we may find ourselves overworking or being those applying the perfectionism in our work. You want to do everything to perfection. It is okay. However, if it is bringing a dysfunctionality in your life, then you need to ask yourself, really, is it helpful? Is it making me a better person, or is it making me a worse person? Again, also, sometimes we forget about our own self-care. And we are doing things either for others from outside our workspace, or when you're at the workplace, we are always doing things for others, but we forget me, forgetting about who Pauline is. What are the things that make me happy? What are the things that will give me a kick? You know, what are those things that even though it's reading something for 5 minutes or watching or listening, but being intentional in taking good care of you. You know, allowing those boundaries to be built. You know, you already know that you're supposed to do this time. You've already created your own boundaries, but you're not firm enough to be able to stand by your boundaries. Of course, sometimes we allow some flexibility depending on the situations that are happening around that time, but not making it a habit that you're always bending your boundaries so that you're able to accommodate the dynamics of what is happening. But yes, it's important to be mindful and allow some flexibility depending on the context of what is happening. Sometimes we put so many compartments with ourselves, so many of them, such that they become confusing. So again, and they become very rigid, and you're unable to be able to bring in that flexibility that I am talking about. So some of the pitfalls, there are many others that we can be able to look at from an individual level. This is just a highlight to remind ourselves. These are not things that are new to us, but it is just re-emphasizing and reminding ourselves of the things that we should be looking out for. As we put together all these strategies, as we think of how to land our plane one at a time, then we need to be very objective before we start planning, think, how am I going to finish? So that we do not become like this man. So he has painted the whole space, but he does not know how to get out of this space. So being, again, intentional and deliberate allows you to be visionary. It allows you to understand where you are at. It allows you that clarity of understanding this is the way to go. And it allows you the authenticity to be able to know this is where I'm beginning and this is how I'm going to finish what I am starting. So some of the things, perhaps when we are planning on landing our planes, what are the things we need to look at? Ask ourselves, what does success look like? Is it work when I am doing so much at work? Is it when I'm serving my family? Is it when I am me? Which are the goals that you're serving? And those goals, do they define what success looks like for you? And are they making you happy? And are they making your life have a meaning and a purpose. So key is define what your own success looks like, and it is not success that is defined by other people or other situations, but it's success according to what it looks like for you as an individual. Then be champions of work-life integration or balancing at your workplaces with your teams. Let's be champions of this conversation. Let's take this conversation back to our workspaces, because we know that at the end of the day, when people are feeling, they're feeling good about themselves because they've been able to deal with work and life from a very healthy perspective, we'll be able to have, even improved work satisfaction. We'll be able to have more staff retained. It reduces on that employee churn within our organizations. So every one of us here in this call, let's champion strategies that will work at our workplaces so that everybody is happy, everybody is productive, and our performance go up. So again, we're going back to what I had mentioned about boundaries. Again, being a yes person, always when your boss tells you yes, you have no point of saying, excuse me, I had these other assignments that I was doing. Allow me to finish and I will do this at a particular time. Or is it in your family? There are people who are always there doing things for their family members and never saying, no, I cannot be able to do it. So being a yes person does not mean you're blindly fulfilling everybody's desires. No, let's always be clear again and say no. Sometimes it's okay, and no is okay. Sometimes you may explain it, sometimes no may be a complete answer, again depending on the context of the no. Sometimes you may not need to explain it why, but sometimes you may want to explain it. But again, being an over-explainer again brings in another dysfunctional way of living, and it is not a very healthy coping mechanism. So prioritize again what's important to you. Be gracious to yourself. Show some compassion, show some grace to yourself, and sometimes just unplug from everything and go to yourself, zone in. Again, it all depends on what gives you that kick. There are people, you'll not just take a walk. Like for me, is being in the nature. I'll take a walk. I will, go to the garden and do some activity. That gives me a kick. It is different for all of us. Be cognizant of what gives you that kick and go for it. And it ties into this about those activities and opportunities that energize you, even at the workplace. You can come up with timings where we have activities that energize us. We can have some team activities. We don't always have to wait for the team building activities that are organized by our employers. We can always be creative and innovative and ask ourselves as a team, as a call center team, what makes us happy? What activities can we be doing maybe before work, 5 minutes before work, or after work, or the in-between, depending on how the work is. In another team, if it is in the CS managers, they can come together in a big institution or smaller, whatever it is. Let's ask ourselves as teams and as professionals, what are those activities we can be able to do within ourselves, within our teams, to be able to energize us as teams. Then finally, embrace the work-life integration. Trying to completely separate work and family sometimes can lead to that feeling of guilt. Maybe I'm not a perfect mom, I'm not a perfect spouse, I'm not a perfect sibling. It causes that feeling of guilt. But when you're able to know how to aid the balance, or you're able to know how to integrate it and bring it all together and complete the jigsaw of your life, then that helps you to be a better person. So let's try out what works for us. Let's apply personalize. Remember, as professionals, we keep saying for us to be able to build loyalty, for us to be able to build trust with our customers, we need to learn from our data analytics. We need to do those analysis and know how do we offer personalized services. So let's also learn to do the same for ourselves and also for our teams. And at the end of the day, work-life integration is very beautiful for each and every one of us. I'll read out what I've quoted there. We are dead within. Even our attempts to update ourselves professionally will not be useful, hence the need for frequent self-evaluations and make changes necessary changes. Achieving an equilibrium in both your work and personal lives allows you to perform optimally in both areas. So let's reflect on the different strategies and empower ourselves. At the end of the day, let's be grateful for what we have. Let's practice the virtue of gratitude and adopt a growth mindset. Seek for help. And when we are seeking for help, it's not because we are weak. I said it's okay to feel disappointed. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel excited. It's okay to feel sad. Whatever emotion, it is okay. It is what we do with those emotions. So seek for help, not because you're weak, but you want to remain strong. Go for coaching, mentorship, look for an accountability partner, whatever works. And I liked this quote by Barack Obama. He says, do not be afraid to ask questions. Do not be afraid to ask for help when you need it. He says, I do that every day. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. It shows that you have courage to admit when you do not know something and to learn something new. Again, lastly, you cannot truly be considered successful if in your business life or your professional life, if your home life, if your social life, if your spiritual life, if your financial life, if your psychological, emotional life is in shambles. And so let's not all get busy making a living and forget to make a life for ourselves. Let's not stop trying. Let's keep trying. All of us have got this, and we will be able to be happier, more productive people with ourselves. Sometimes when you feel like you're out of order with yourself, when almost everything is working against you, just unplug for a few minutes. Unplug even from yourself. Switch off your phone, go off internet, whatever it is. Please do not allow yourself to get out of order at any point. And lastly, you cannot pour from an empty cup, so take care of yourself first. And that brings me to the end of my presentation this afternoon. Back to you, Lynette.
Wow, I just want to clap. Amazing, amazing. That was such a well-delivered session. Let me tell you guys, hey, today we discussed how Pauline shares a name with my mother. She's Pauline Muthoni, and my mother is Pauline Muthoni. And can't you see the name has been well represented today? It's just amazing, amazing. So many accolades coming through on our chat here. So many people saying thank you so much for the tips. Thank you for the presentation. From Johanna, who was saying that it's very resourceful and informational and very helpful to the CS community. And Purity says it's very resourceful and would like the notes to be shared. I hope that you will allow us to share this. Edith says it's her first Zoom meeting and she's loving it here. Welcome, Edith. So many compliments here. Of course, people asking for the notes to be shared so that they can share at their workplace. We can see you, Daisy, Mercy, Immaculate, Mine, saying thank you and it was amazing. Carol, Purity, all saying it is so much and wonderful for them, and they have gotten so many tips. Personally, I've taken so much from this session, from stopping and sitting with my emotions, to looking at what is triggering me, to listening to my inner self, for sure, I will take these 3 steps. I will also be very deliberate and purposeful in landing one plane at a time. And lastly, to be able to look at the 5 tips that he gave us at the end, defining our success, creating safe spaces. I know a lot of us here are managers, or we manage teams, or we have people reporting to us. And so you're able to create a safe space. You have the power to create a safe space for your team. Kindly do that. Champion for others to also create a safe space within your workplace for people to be able to share. And for sure, we'll have an impact on what is happening in the world today in terms of mental wellness, and be able to maybe even reduce the kind of conflict we are seeing, or suicide rates that we are seeing in Kenya and in the world today. Of course, boundaries, prioritizing, doing activities that energize you, and all the beautiful quotes that Pauline shared. We believe that Pauline was very articulate, and she was able to give the tips very well, and we'll be able to share the presentation on email afterwards, and also the recording if you would like to share that with the rest of your team. Maybe we can share some of the things maybe you've learned during this Mental Awareness Month of May. What is one lesson that you've learned that is really important that you'll carry on for the rest of the year? And maybe you can have people, unmute and just speak.
Yeah, I think a big lesson for me is that on the weekend, this past Sunday, we had a combined activity at a school in Kibra. That it was a combined activity for Mother's Day, as well as menstrual hygiene, as well as mental health, and it was for mothers with children with disability or mothers with disability. And for me, my biggest take home was this attitude of gratitude as a strategy against mental health challenges. Because when we're looking at all these mothers, the ones with disability and the ones with children with disabilities, they had so much to be thankful for, so much to be grateful for. They were happy, they were full of life and full of joy. And we're asking ourselves, oh my goodness, if it was us, would be having such a pity party, complaining all over the place and feeling victim mentality and things like that. And so it was such a wake-up call to have an attitude of gratitude all the time as a weapon, as a strategy, as a blueprint for mental wellness. So that has been a very, very big take home for me. I am walking in a different light since Sunday, absolutely different light. Yeah, so that has been my lesson for this month of May. Back to you, Lynette.
From your talk, I'm taking away to have an attitude of gratitude, to be thankful for what I have and what I've been able to, we have so many blessings in our lives that sometimes we take for granted. And for sure, when we see someone else in different circumstances, then we can see the difference. Okay, Susan says that's a great takeout, the attitude of gratitude as a tool for mental health. So thank you so much, everyone who's been able to join this session, and a very big thank you to you, Pauline, for being able to prepare this. I know it took you a while to put this together, but for sure it has had an impact in our lives, and we are not the same today as we were before this. I would like to thank all of you for taking time, giving us your 1 hour and a few minutes to join this. And I would like to hand it back to Angela, who's our host, to just close with any announcements.
Okay, thank you so much, Lynette. That was wonderful, as well as Pauline. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much. So allow me to once again thank you all for joining us. Special thanks to all our members. Thank you for always supporting us and, honoring our invite whenever we call you. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank all the guests who have joined us here. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the ICX family. And I hope that this is, we're not interacting here for the last time, that we will meet again and we will interact further. I'd also like to thank Lynette for moderating the session for us and also summarizing the session for us. Thank you, Lynette. Thank you for honoring our invite. Special thanks again to our guest speaker, Ms. Pauline Kariuki. Pauline, you're amazing. We cannot emphasize that enough. Thank you for always honoring our invite and coming in for the second time and, just leading us in this discussion, sharing your knowledge. Thank you so much. Also, special mention of our board member, Mr. Njuguna Mburu, who has also joined us in this session. Thank you for sparing your time and, coming in to also be part of this, this session. Thank you, Mr. Njuguna Mburu, for being with us here today. Maybe to just say hi to the members and then we can proceed. Njuguna?
Thank you, Angela. Indeed, it was a pleasure listening to you, Pauline, again. Thank you so much for the insights that you shared and the things that we're learning. We'll need to listen to that recording again and again because there's so much that you've packed into that 1 hour. Thanks, Pauline. Thanks, Angela.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Njuguna. So we're going to put on chat a feedback link. Please give us your feedback. Tell us what you really liked from this session, what we need to improve on, and other topics that we can also focus on next time whenever we are hosting our mental health talks. Again, we say this session will be hosting them after 2 months. So yes, please suggest in the topics that you'd like us to focus on. The feedback link is on chat. Kindly see to that and please give us your feedback. Lastly, early in July, we will be hosting a CEO Breakfast Forum. We're inviting you all. Please send in, your senior staff, your CEOs, and you can also start preparing now that, we have sent out the, we're now sharing the communication with you. But then also early next week, we'll put out official communication together with the dates. We'll be hosting a CEO Breakfast Forum. You can start planning for that. Thank you, and enjoy your Madaraka Day.